Welcome to today's podcast. Again, it's a build up on what I elaborated on previously about Bank of Uganda's, move to issue a central bank digital currency, stemming from the workshop, stakeholders validation workshop on central bank digital currencies that they held on March 4th, 2025. So I want to, first of all, for us to watch a certain clip by a lady, an economist called Pippa Malmgren, who was speaking at the World Government Summit in 2022, to watch what she said, and then we'll come back and we'll break it down and we say, again, elaborate and unpack the far-reaching implications of central bank digital currencies. Let's watch.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well.
So from that clip, we are going to go step by step. She said that what underpins our world order is always the financial system. And she mentioned that we are about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. We are introducing a new one in response to the world order. Because she says what underpins a world order is always, we need to underline that, the financial system. And she said that the new one, the financial order or system that's being introduced, the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having almost a perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us a greater clarity over what's going on. Now let's break down that. She said that it raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. That this perfect record of every transaction will raise issues in terms of, huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between citizens and the states. One, we need to note that this will raise huge dangers not between citizens and the states. Why? Because this global move to issue central bank digital currencies is not an issue of individual states. It's a global move being orchestrated by bureaucrats or elites seated somewhere beyond your individual states. Therefore, it causes huge dangers between global citizens and this small cartel and clique of people that want to control everything in this world. So the dangers are not between citizens and their individual states. It's between citizens and this global cartel. So we need to correct that. And then she also mentioned that there are some dangers that will come from that. Now we need to say that she talks about the dangers, but she doesn't go into depth of those dangers. Those dangers are some of the ones that I elaborated on the previous podcast. Well, we talk about the ability to program the central bank digital currencies. They'll be able to program. Again, let me elaborate again for those that may not have watched the previous podcast. Programmability of CBDCs simply means the ability to program central bank digital currencies. Now, these digital currencies, programmability is just programming. Like they may program your account that you can withdraw only 800,000 shillings per withdrawal, and that maybe per day you can only withdraw 2 million. It's programmed like that. So the same thing that with these central bank digital currencies, they'll be able to program them but not for that purpose of limiting how much you can withdraw. Yes, that will come in, but it will be for purposes of limiting what you can buy, when you can buy it, in what quantities you're buying it, where you're buying it, generally monitoring each and every transaction. Like the leader said, there will be almost a perfect record of each and every transaction. And you think they will just be monitoring that? No, they will be monitoring to control in response to the global crisis of climate change. They may say that, say for example, since we are fighting fossil fuels, no one should buy fuel cars. So if they say no one should buy fuel cars, they don't have to come to every bond or your home and stop you from buying it. No, they just program your central bank digital currency that it cannot buy a fuel car. Even if you have the money, then they can say that, you know what, we cannot buy a lot of beef. Why can't we buy beef? Because when we buy more beef or meat, we shall be supporting that industry or the meat industry, yet we know the repercussions of cows on the climate, on the earth, that they emit a lot of these gases that, you know, are hazardous to our climate. And since we are fighting climate change, you cannot support such an industry. Therefore, they can program your money that you can only buy 1 kilo of meat per month. It's occasional, it's not something to be enjoyed as and when you want, as long as depending on the money that you have on your account. So they'll program your money to that detail. Where can you buy? Those industries or those factories that are not, you know, adhering to these globalist agendas, they'll be cut out of this system, that even if you want to buy from them, you cannot buy from them. They'll be cut out. So that means that this kind of control will not be a control of how much you can withdraw only, but it will be a control of what you can buy, where you can buy it, in what quantities you can buy it, how often, etc. Everything. It will be monitored on a central switch. You can be frozen out of your account. You can be also open to some industries or some goods and services, depending again on your carbon credits. Again, now touching a bit on carbon credits, everyone they envisage a world where you have a carbon credit tracker, whereby they will be able to see your individual contribution to climate change or to these emissions by the activities that you do. If you buy a lot of meat, then you are emitting, you're contributing a lot. If you fly out to go and maybe check on your relatives or friends outside of your location or country, you are contributing a lot. If you go for vacation and you're flying to whatever destination it is, you're contributing a lot of fumes. If you drive from here to go and check on your relatives, say in Kavale, in Gulu, in Arua, you are contributing, you are emitting a lot of fumes by driving there, therefore contributing a lot to the climate, you know, issues that we have today. Therefore, you have that carbon footprint tracker to track how much you're contributing, and therefore if you exceed a certain threshold that they will have demarcated for each and every one, they will be able to lock you out of your central bank digital currency. So you see the dangers that she's talking about, though she glosses over them very fast, they are far-reaching dangers that we are looking at here. They could be even dictatorial, to the point that if you said something bad on social media that they did not like, how could you say that climate change is not exactly, the science around climate change hasn't been concluded, that there are scientists that are against it? How can you say that? Then you find that they could lock you out of your central bank digital currency wallet. So it's going to become a control system, not a current system, that in spite of the money that you have, you may not be able to access certain goods and services, mainly because we are fighting climate change. Of course, there's an example here of the London that their mayor foresees here, Sadiq Khan, which has noted that no meat, no dairy, and 3 outfits a year. Welcome to Sadiq Khan's plan for London. That's what published. And Sadiq Khan, you know, he plans to unite cities with a call to ban petrol and diesel cars. So that's the kind of world that they envisage for you, or they will be able to squeeze you into using these central bank digital currencies. don't go here, don't go there, don't go beyond this point, don't. It's a world full of so many don'ts. So it's a world of social credit systems. It's not even about your money. It's about how much you bow to these global agendas. That they'll squeeze you here, they'll squeeze you there. Don't buy so many shirts for or dresses for a baby shower, wedding shower, and whatever new shower comes up. Every time you're buying outfits. No, those industries, clothes industries, are emitting a lot of fumes to produce these clothes. Therefore, we have to minimize on the number of clothes that we buy, so that they also cut back on the production of clothes, and therefore we save our Mother Earth. You see, but she glosses over those dangers. But again, the main point for this was to show you that she mentioned that a world order is always, that what underpins a world order is always the financial system. So you may need to ask yourself, what kind of world order do they want to introduce that will ride, or for it to be effectively introduced, we will need the introduction of central bank digital currencies. What kind of world is that they want for you? Again, here I don't want us to take wild guesses, but we shall look at these 8 predictions by the year 2030 that were posted by the World Economic Forum in November of 2016. That was on 18th November 2016. They posted these predictions, but you will know that these are not predictions. These are their plans for you, for the world in 2030. These are the things that they want to introduce by 2030. But for them to introduce them effectively, they will need the central bank digital currencies in operation. That's why we need to resist this evil. But first watch these 8 predictions, and then we shall come back and analyze them. Right, like I said, that those 8 predictions for by the year 2030 are not exact predictions. Those are their plans that they have for you. Okay, and we are going to see why we are saying that. These are like in Uganda, when the National Resistance Movement had just moved, come to power in 1986. They came with their 10-point program, on how they are to govern. So these 8 predictions, you can look at them in relation to that their 8-point program of the world they want to see in the year 2030. So we are going to look at them. One, they say you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you will rent and it will be delivered to you. You see the kind of world they want for you. They want a world where you don't own a shirt, you don't own a car, you don't own the house, you don't own anything. Now you have to tell me if this will be a world that you want to live in, where you own nothing. And have you ever seen anyone happy who owns nothing? And then if we own nothing, who will be in charge of all the resources that we see? Now, wouldn't that person who is in charge of all those resources that we see be sort of like a king, almost a god? Wouldn't the disparity between the haves and have-nots be so huge And where do you think you will be? Will you be among the haves? No, you'll be among the have-nots. But that's all they are looking out for you to have, where you own nothing and still be happy. How will they be able to achieve this? Through these so many agendas or programs they are rolling out in the name of fighting climate change, like the carbon footprint trackers for you. That you don't buy it, don't go here, don't go here, don't do this, don't do that, don't own that. Why do you own a house? Building a house, you know, there are a lot of fumes that are emitted by the industries that manufacture iron sheets, bricks, anything, to ensure that they limit you from owning anything. Not even about a border or anything, will be just rented. Rented from who? And who will be in charge of all these resources that we have? You understand the manner of tyranny they want to unleash on you. So that's what they are saying. Then they say that US won't be a world-leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. Of course, with all these agendas, not even only US, they will collapse so many economies. Net zero, where they want to cap people's emissions. That if you're emitting this so much emissions in the atmosphere, therefore you have to have a corresponding efforts to remove all these emissions from the atmosphere. Who will be able to achieve that? That will lead to the death of so many industries and kill manufacturing. Most economies will grind to a halt. And like we've seen, not only economies, but also, not only manufacturing, but also on the agriculture side. There's a war ongoing against farming to replace the organic foods with processed and lab-grown meats, and replace whatever protein you have with bugs and insects for you to eat. That's the world they're envisaging for you. And when they say that a handful of countries will dominate, not a handful of countries dominating, it will be the globalists dominating, because they are trying to kill that patriotic and nationalistic spirit. Because if every nation is nationalistic and they love themselves, then they cannot institute or establish this global rule when individual countries are independent. So they need to collapse that independence and patriotic forces, so that all authority is vested in the hands of a few. So US still, that's what they wish for the US. You won't die waiting for an organ donor. We won't transplant organs, we will print new organs. They are showing you where they are going. Again, synthetic things, away from the organic things. Again, that's more market for big pharma. While they remove your hearts and livers and all, they'll be replacing them, and they are giving them to the elites who will be suffering whatever chronic diseases. They'll be replacing yours with some synthetic things. And you'll eat much less meat as an occasional treat, not a staple for the good of the environment or our health. That's number 4. That you eat much less meat. Again, this is the war on food production. They'll wait that way, that you, like they've said, the cows, they emit a lot of these gases that are bad for our atmosphere, for our Mother Earth. Therefore, we need to cut back on the meat that we have, or dairy products that we consume. Therefore, they are saying that the meat you'll be eating will be just occasional, an occasional treat. Christmas, you are not just going to walk into Sechadon and ask for pork, whatever. No. That won't be there. It will be just occasional, as for the good of the environment, because there's this major crisis that we are all combating. We are all involved in this fight. And again, how will they ensure that you have this occasional meat? Just again, besides the war on food production and agriculture, they will also be able to program your money. The programmability of central bank digital currencies, that they can program your money, that can only buy half a kilo a month. It's occasional. Perhaps even you have to cite reasons why you want to buy meat. You want to buy meat, why? Feed in here, feed in there, to show us whether really that occasion is big enough for you to have meat. My child's birthday, no. It's only for Christmas. Again, bullet 5, the prediction they are saying, which are not exactly predictions, but they are plans. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We will have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Again, here you're saying, when they say a billion people will be displaced by climate change. They are riding on the narrative that climate change, we are in the era of global boiling, way past global warming, pushing that fear narrative that people will be displaced because of what? Natural calamities. But people won't be displaced like that. They will create these artificial calamities so that again they advocate for open borders where people can infiltrate any country, and when people infiltrate a country, the first thing that dies is the spirit of that country, because the new people that come in are not sons or daughters of that land. They also come with their own, cultures, and they come and desecrate whatever culture that you had. We've seen it at least firsthand during the Biden era, where in 4 years he was able to unleash illegal immigrants in the regions of 20 million. And these are not even well-meaning. These are members of cartels, of gangs, rapists. They unleash them in your community as they push for open borders. Again, the push for open borders is to kill nationalistic forces, because a foreigner who has just moved into a place will not die for that land as much as a national who was born there. Again, when they kill nationalistic forces, it will concentrate the power in the hands of the cartel that is at the top. And then number 6, they look at polluters will pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. This again, we've talked about they are waging a war on fossil fuels. How will they do that? By putting carbon credit system, that for you to emit a certain number or a certain level of gases into the atmosphere, if you are a manufacturing plant and you emit this much, you need to have corresponding acts on the site that ensure that those emissions that you emit in the atmosphere are removed. So that means companies or manufacturers have to incur an extra cost. Besides me producing, say, these so many clothes, I have to ensure now how much have I emitted in the atmosphere. Now to fight climate change, I need to plant so many trees. Then displaced people plant trees or do whatever it is. Now that you are incurring more costs of production. Now if there are more costs of production, it means even the overall selling price of your products will skyrocket, and then very few people will be able to afford it. So very many manufacturers will be driven out of production, and then economies will collapse as we fight climate change. And then of course the ongoing market of carbon credits. There will be those who are dealing in carbon credits. For us here, we don't emit so much, therefore we have accumulated all these credits. We emit this little, we haven't emitted so much, so we can sell you our carbon credits, you who is emitting so much, so that you can be able to maintain your level of production. Again, that's driving high the cost of production, which impacts the final cost of goods and services, that people may not be able to afford them. Then 7, they talk about you could be preparing to go to Mars. Okay, yeah, you could be preparing to go to Mars. Science will have worked out on how to keep you healthy in space to start a journey, the start of the journey to find alien life. Again, this is going to be a major hoax as we go ahead, where they talk about alien life, aliens existing. It has already started UFOs, you've seen them. That's a hoax coming up. And then 8, they say Western values will have been tested to the breaking point by the year 2030. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. They say Western values will have been tested to breaking point. Right now they are being tested to breaking point by so many agendas they are unleashing on society from nursery schools. Through the media, you see these transgender things of a man is not a man, a woman is not a woman. They can't even define who a woman is. Those are things that Western values will be tested. Yes, they are being tested. In the UK, 2013, 2014, they had these, foreigners that came in from Pakistan mainly, who, they unleashed on various communities, and they went on gang raping young kids. not raping, defiling young kids. The grooming gangs, they call them grooming gangs, but they're more like defilement gangs, to use the right terms. So, but they let them, roam the streets. No, they couldn't even bring them under the law too. Recently, that I saw their Prime Minister Kai Starmer saying that there's going to be a worldwide investigation into that 10 years later, more than 10 years later. That's what it means that, that their Western values will be tested to the core. They are going to be tested to the core because of the various agendas these people are unleashing in drip by drip kind of measure. And they want by 2030 that everything you stand for as your value, as this is us, this is who we are, is decimated. And now that's the world that they want to introduce, that this lady, Pippa Malmgren, was saying that that what underpins a world order is always the financial system. That's the world order they want to bring to pass. But to bring it to pass, they need central bank digital currencies fully operational, because they will help, because of their programmability, they'll be able to control you. And without whipping you, without caning you, without coming to your door, by simply freezing you out of your accounts. But now that world cannot come to pass effectively to the level and measure that they want. It can't come to pass if they are not controlling your spending. That's why we need to fight tooth and nail that Bank of Uganda, or that Uganda does not go down this path. This is an evil path orchestrated from the depths of hell. Then perhaps again, besides that, you may say those 8 predictions are not enough to show, to prove to you that, this is the world they want for you. Perhaps those were 8 predictions, not their plans. No, those 8 predictions are also seen in UN's Agenda 2030. Those same predictions. But of course, here they are not telling you that that's what they wish for you. They are camouflaged in good languages. These agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17, they mention, I love what one investigative journalist said, that when they use a certain language, they use inverted language. They say this when they mean the opposite. So now some of those agendas, they say that they want to end poverty. But how are you ending poverty when I own nothing? When you are in control of all the resources and controlling what I can buy and what I can't buy, when you have taken over all the means of production, how are you ending poverty? No, so when they say in the first, Sustainable Development Goal that they want to end poverty, no, they want to spread poverty. When they say they want zero hunger, it's not zero hunger. How are you driving towards zero hunger when you are destroying the food systems? No, and then feeding people on processed foods and lab meats and insects and bugs and whatever worms that you come up with. Is that ending hunger? When they say good health and well-being, what do you mean? Safe and effective that we have just experienced in 2020, 2021, 2022? Is that what you want to unleash? When they talk about quality education, where you want to introduce sex education, transgender education, and all these alphabet educations in nursery schools. That's quality education. And they talk about gender equality. Gender equality, when you are transferring transgenders into women's sports, that's gender equality. Transgender men participating into women fashion shows and beauty competitions, that's gender equality. You tell me, when they talk about affordable and clean energy, when you are destroying the energy systems, replacing them with unreliable solar and wind energy, creating, manufacturing a shortage that will lead to absurd rationing of energy, that all in the name of fighting climate change. They talk about decent work and economic growth. Decent work and economic growth, when you are collapsing economies and industries and manufacturing, is that decent work? So they talk about all these so many high-sounding things, but you can go through all these They say climate action. Again, you know, whatever they are unleashing, all this climate action, carbon footprints, determining for what you can eat, buy, when, where. And then they say industry innovation and infrastructure. Industry innovation and infrastructure, they are looking at the digital infrastructure they are rolling out where you can be surveilled from inside your bedroom to wherever you step. You can be surveilled. That's the industry innovation and infrastructure, based of course on blockchain, where they can monitor perfectly, like this lady says, every transaction that you make. And then they say sustainable cities and communities. Those are the smart cities they're talking about, where you'll be geofenced within a location. You cannot leave your home. You are only allowed to move from your home 15 minutes away from your home. They create a radius for you. Beyond 15 minutes from your home, you are not allowed to go there. You are in a prison almost. Not almost, you are in a prison. And they lock you in there, heavily surveilled, controlled, where to go, when to sleep, when to wake up, how much electricity to use. You cannot heat your house if it's winter. Those who live in winter regions, those are smart cities they're talking about. Nothing smart about them, but they're here talking about them. Responsible consumption and production. Responsible consumption, that's the apportioning of food for you. Apportioning of what you can buy and what you can't buy, what they term as desirable and undesirable. That's what, remember how they are teaching us how to eat posho during the pandemic, how to optimally, eat 1 kilo of posho as a family, so that it spreads out. That's the world that this lady is talking about. But again, they say that for that world to come to pass, they need to be in control of the financial system. That's why they want to get you off the banknotes and coins, which they don't have good oversight over, to put you onto this digital platform, the central bank digital currencies, which are centrally issued and controlled, where they can monitor each and every transaction of yours, and they control you perfectly. So they are not only perfectly watching every transaction, but they are also perfectly controlling you. That's what they want. Now, this is why, again, you need to resist these central bank digital currencies. They are it's almost the fuel that is going to move this world that they want to create for you, together with the digital IDs. Now, we've looked at the 8 predictions by the year 2030 that were made by World Economic Forum in November 2016. If you didn't believe that that's the world they want for you, we've looked at the UN Agenda 2030. Again, UN Agenda 2030, the predictions are also for 2030. That's the world they want for you. But again, if that's not enough, we can look at the book that was released by Klaus Schwab in 2020, July, just at the onset of the pandemic. It was called the Great Reset. The Great Reset and their mantra of building back better. In that book, it's as if scholars telling us what the world will be like after the pandemic, but they are showing you the world they want for you, or they were showing us the world they wanted for us post the pandemic. And yes, certain things may not have come to pass yet, but that's the world they have in store for you. And for that world to come to pass, they need the issuance of central bank digital currencies, and not as national preposition, but rather global prepositions managed centrally, perhaps at the IMF, International Monetary Fund, somewhere seated there. But in the book, The Great Reset, just to pick up bits and pieces of the world that they envisage for Israel, they say, I picked excerpts here. It is, of course, much too early to tell with any reasonable accuracy that COVID-19 will entail in terms of momentous changes. So they talk about changes that will come, that they expect for your world. But the objective of this book is to offer some coherent and conceptually sound guidelines. These are not guidelines. These are the plans I have for you. So you need to also understand the language that they use here and interpret it well. About what may lie ahead, not what may lie ahead, what they plan for you, okay? And to do so in the most comprehensive manner possible. Our aim is to help our readers grasp the multifaceted dimension of the changes that are coming, at the very least, as we will argue, the pandemic will accelerate systematic changes that were already apparent prior crisis. So they said that the pandemic was going to accelerate certain things that were crisis. What are certain of those things that were already a crisis? They talk about climate change, among others, and and then there's but it could go beyond a mere acceleration, but altering things that previously seemed unchangeable. It may thus provoke changes that would have seemed inconceivable before the pandemic struck, such as new forms of monetary policy like helicopter money. Now here they are talking about the pandemic, that it may lead to certain changes that we may not have thought about, such as the monetary policy. So they also give a hint of central bank digital currencies, and they call it helicopter money. Helicopter money, the definition here is that this when the central bank distributes large sums of money, of new money, directly to the public, often to stimulate a stagnant economy or combat deflation. So they are talking about all these things, and it's one of the things that they have fronted as the advantage of programmability of central bank digital currencies, that they'll be able to wire money to actual recipients where it doesn't go through intermediaries. That, for example, right now when the country wants to, say, give out the parish development model money to the people in the parishes, they have to go intermediaries, okay, for that money to reach the final recipient. But again, within the system from BOU to the final recipient, corruption can happen in there, lots of things. But now they say with the programmability of central bank digital currencies, they can wire that money directly. Hence, they are more efficient, they are fast, and they eliminate corruption and everything in between. So they are saying here that part of the world that they envisage after the pandemic is this new form of monetary, they say policy, but that policy is coming with the central bank digital currencies. They say the COVID-19 pandemic has made governments important again, not just powerful again. So you see how they use crisis to again concentrate power in the hands of governments and in the hands of the globalists. They are showing it here in the book, The Great Reset. So even this climate change is also going to be to concentrate more power. Whatever crisis comes up, it concentrates more power in the hands of this cartel. Okay, and then they also talk about lockdowns and carbon emissions. They said that while the emissions reduced a bit during the lockdowns because we weren't able to drive, the flights were reduced and all, they said that it wasn't enough. So it wasn't enough, that we need to do even more. So more aggressive lockdowns. But they also say that, again, didn't reduce well enough because many of the manufacturers continued to manufacture goods. They continued to work. So therefore, they need, I think, to clamp down on manufacturing to get to either net zero or tremendously reduce your production of goods. So you see, that's the world that they're envisaging. Again, we could go on and on about, they also talk about smart cities, how, again, they talk about smart, an important lesson can be learned from the countries that were more effective in dealing with the pandemic. Technology in general and digital in particular helped, and then they talk about in this process, technology can be formidable, a formidable, shortcut, allowing public health officials to identify infected people very rapidly. They are talking about the wonders of technology in regard to the fight of the pandemic through contact tracing and contact tracking, that they trace, and tracking. There's an app that gains insights in real time. For example, determining a person's current location if you had COVID, and then tracing, they consist of gaining insights and, identifying the physical contacts you've been in touch with. So they say that this digital platform of contact tracing and tracking will be of tremendous help in fighting pandemics. But again, it will go further than that in the smart cities. It will be a surveillance system meant to control you, to oversee your entire movements. So in a nutshell, that's the kind of world that they see for you. But for that world to be effective or to come into full manifestation, they need to be in charge of the financial system. And they want to be in charge of that by the introduction of central bank digital currencies. That's why you need to resist them. All right, till next time, have a good time.